Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. It's Saturday before the 4th of July weekend, so I hope everybody has some plans for the weekend that include family and friends and fireworks and maybe some record digging. I've been doing some digging recently and got a couple things I'd like to show. So first group of things I got off a guy on Craigslist. Local guy here in Maine said he was a broadcaster for 40 years and he had lots of LPs to sell, jazz and folk and some country. So I guess his idea of jazz and my idea of jazz are two totally different things. I'm thinking 40 years in the business, jazz. I got visions in my head of Blue Note and Riverside and all these great original recordings. And when I get there, I mean, his idea of jazz is Herb Alpert and Al Hirt and Pete Fountain. So I did find some jazz, but it was a little disappointing. He really had it built up in my head. It was going to be a great, great dig, and it was okay. So I'll start off with some of the jazz albums and show you what I got from him. Sort of set this up backwards, but that's okay. So the first one I got from him with jazz was this Oscar Peterson album, which is pretty nice. This is Oscar Peterson plays the Harry Warren and Vincent Yeoman's songbook on Verve Records. Good condition, great little play, great little pickup. He does things like Lullaby of Broadway, I Had the Craziest Eye, Dream Last Night, I Only Have Eyes for You, Chattanooga Choo Choo, Without a Song, Drums in My Heart. So, you know, good classic stuff, but a nice pickup. These all cost me about $2.50 average. So that was a nice pickup, the Oscar Peterson. Next one he had, which I really liked also, is this Dave Brubeck album called Southern Scene. Dave Brubeck Trio and Duo. And it's on the Columbia 6i, which is pretty nice. And again, this is from the late 50s, early 60s. I really didn't do a lot of research on it, but played really nice, original mono, so that was nice, like that. Next jazz album I got from him, back in the 50s, there was a TV show called Pete Kelly's Blues, basically about a detective and a club next door, which was called Pete Kelly's. This is the soundtrack that we used in that, called Pete Kelly's Blues. Fun little album. You know, straight ahead 50s, cool West Coast jazz. Pretty nice. I think it's 1959. Yep. So, another jazz album from him, also in mono, which was nice. Last jazz album, I think, is Teddy Wilson, piano player with Benny Goodman's trio and quartet. And the song is And Then They Wrote, plays the great songs composed by the great jazz pianist. So he has stuff here by Jelly Roll Morton, Fats Waller, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, George Shearing, plays all their stuff. And Teddy Wilson's just a great piano player, and that's also on the Columbia 6i. So that was a nice pickup too. And mono, pretty clean condition, not perfect, but pretty good. Then he had a couple of albums by this guy who is my favorite singer of all time, Frank Sinatra. And I usually steer clear of one, say, electronically enhanced for stereo. But this time I made an exception. This is Try a Little Tenderness. And he does My Blue Heaven, Try a Little Tenderness, Moonlight in Vermont, I Can't Get Started, classic stuff. Good little album by Frank. Doesn't sound great with the enhanced stereo, I gotta admit. Next one was a cool pickup, also by Frank. And rarely do I see this. This is White Label Promo. Frank Sinatra's The Greatest Hits Early Years. It's a mixed album. Some of the stuff is really great. I've Got a Crush on You, The Girl That I Marry, Saturday Night. But then you get The House I Lived In. That's America to Me. Maybe the worst song ever recorded by Frank or anybody. Just terrible. But anyway, the rest of the album is pretty great. And again, like I said, it's on Columbia, and it's a white label promo, which I've never seen a Frank white label promo before. So that was a cool little pickup. Then he had a lot of folk albums, and I was, when I grew up in the 60s, early 60s, folk music was really the scene I was into. I used to go to this place all the time and listen to music. And this is an album I'd never seen before called The Folk Singers of Washington Square. This was released in 1961. Yeah, nice gatefold. As you can see, here's the back, which is sort of cool. Big gatefold there, and inside has things about the artists, the musicians. So this is just a made-up band of a number of musicians used to play in Greenwich Village at the time. So on here is Sandy Bull. So 1961, he had to be really young. And Bruce Langhorne. And if you don't know Bruce Langhorne, he is the guy that Dylan wrote Mr. Tambourine Man about. He was a backup guitar player, musician, played on a lot of Dylan stuff, played on so many major albums of the time. He just passed away last year, actually. So to find an early music by Bruce Langhorne and Sandy Bull is pretty cool. Folk Singers of Washington Square, which is in Greenwich Village in New York. That's where I used to go and hang out when I was a kid. When I was 14, 15, 16 years old. I would take the bus into New York City, and we'd go to Greenwich Village and hang out with the beatniks, listen to the music being played in Washington Square. Always fun. This one I had, but I didn't have this version of it. And this is The Weavers at Carnegie Hall with Pete Seeger, Fred Hellerman, Ronnie Gilbert, and Lee Hayes. They really were the beginning of the folk revival of the 60s and on Vanguard. Speaking of Pete Seeger, I couldn't pass this up. Pete Seeger, Bless the Grass. Haven't heard this yet, but looking forward to that. Great album by a great artist. Next one is album I've seen, but I never saw a promo, so I jumped on it, plus it was super clean. And Chad Mitchell Trio, Live at the Bitter End. This is everywhere in Goodwill. You always see this album lying around. But the nice thing about it, it was a white label promo from Cap in close to mint condition. So I took my old one. I'm going to get rid of it and replace it with this. That's a nice upgrade. And last, but not least, is an album by a country guitar player where, for some reason, you never see his records. He was a movie, starred in a lot of different movies, and a great guitar picker is Jerry Reed, and this is Explores Guitar Country. I picked this one up recently, actually, after a long time, years looking for a Jerry Reed album, and it was really trashed. So I saw this exact same record literally 2-3 weeks later, and it's excellent condition. So nice upgrade there on the RCA Victor label. So those are all from this former broadcaster here in Maine. We averaged out about $2.50 a record, which I thought was really great. But you never know. You go on digs and you expect the world and you get, it's okay. Other times you go expecting nothing and it's the greatest thing in the world. So I hope everybody has a great holiday weekend. Like I said, go see some fireworks, go dig a little records, and until next time, peace.